Hi, this is Frank Gayaldo with 209 Times. Thanks for joining us today. This episode is brought to you by Yes You Can with Lance McCann, your local Central Valley realtor. And I'm happy to have a very nice guest here today, Mr. Dino Ballin. How are you, sir?
Hi, Frank. Very well. Thank you.
Good. Dino, you're running for District 2, San Joaquin County Supervisor. And I think a lot of people know you because of your business down in Lincoln Center, the Pomp, right?
Yes.
And can you tell us why you decided to throw your name in the hat for the supervisor race?
Sure. Great question. So I'm running because I'm a concerned citizen, right? And I think that I love this community. By the way, I graduated from Lincoln High School. I've owned 10 businesses with my wife here in District 2, and we just believe that Stockton has everything it needs to be a world-class city. If this were like Sim City, a computer building game, and you had at your disposal a 4-year private college that's world renowned, a community college that's well respected, the West Coast's largest inland seaport, an airport that's rated for the largest aircraft that's easily expandable, 1,000 miles of waterways, the world's greatest agriculture, both freeways. Stockton ranks number 2 logistically in the nation. If you were given all those things at your disposal to build a city, you would think that you should be successful, that you would create a world-class city, literally. And certainly it should be the crown jewel of the Central Valley and Northern California. Yet despite all of these assets that we have, year after year, after year after year, for 30, 40 years, Stockton ranks at the top of the list, sometimes finishing number 1 as most dangerous cities in the nation. We finished at the top of the list for most miserable cities in which to live. And I'm tired of it. I'm fed up with it. And I like to ask this question, it's a little bit of a test, because I believe that we collectively suffer from low self-esteem. Stockton does. So when you travel, you go to Southern California or across the country, and let's say you and your wife are sitting at the hotel pool, right? And you meet a group of people. And conversations invariably turn to 2 things. What are you doing? Where are you from? You say, I'm Frank Gayaldo. I'm a businessman. I founder of 209 Times and blah, blah, blah. Oh, where are you from? Where are you from, Frank? Oh, I'm from Northern California, or I'm from Lodi. I'm about 40 minutes south of Sacramento. A lot of people phrase it in such a way that they don't have to say they're from Stockton, because they know all of the negative connotations that brings up. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably do that, because most people I ask phrase it in that manner. And I think that I want to attack that primarily, right? And I've been trying for a long time by investing in Stockton, and I can only do what I can do. So my wife and I have done very well in our local area. But I think that what we've done locally, we can really promote, and we can engage that countywide. And I know we can be successful at doing it. It just takes making the team a little bit larger.
Well, that's a very good answer. I just have one disclaimer. I just want everybody to know that I'm not the founder of 209 Times. That award goes to Mr. Motek Sanchez, but I am one of the grunts, and I certainly appreciate your take on that. And I know that you also had a run-in with Sacramento. Could you tell us briefly about what that situation was and how that kind of impacts sort of your political views?
Sure. So when the lockdowns occurred, when the first lockdown occurred, it was just a surreal experience to board up our business and leave it behind. It was like an out-of-body experience, but nobody was sure what this virus was going to occur, and so we did it. And my wife and I actually stayed home for probably 2 weeks. We didn't leave the house. And then one day I said, "Hey, let's jump in the car and let's take a drive to the Bay Area, all the way to the Bay Area and back. Let's just see what the world is like." And we were really shocked to go out in the world and find that we were the only people that stayed home, it seemed like. Everybody was out. There were massive lines at all the drive-through restaurants. There were traffic jams, just as there were prior to this pandemic. And I said, "Oh wow, this is never going to end." I mean, this is shame on we got duped. I sort of felt. So when the second lockdown occurred, the science was out. The data had been studied, and we knew where transmissions were occurring. We knew that 75% occurred in the home. We knew that far less than 1% occurred in personal care services. We knew that 2, 3, 4% occurred in retail environments. And we knew that we were among the safest industries that existed, even proven by the CDC. The CDC used hair salons as the poster child for the effectiveness of PPE, right?
Right.
And California was the only state of 50 states, the only state to lock down personal care. And when I talk, a lot of people don't know this. And so what happened is, in my industry that is largely populated by working mothers, in many cases single mothers, and in most cases the primary breadwinners in their family, they were not given the financial protection that they were promised. They were limited to $168 per week because they were self-employed individuals. And in many cases, they never received the monies they were promised. My wife has still not got her unemployment that was promised her after the second lockdown.
Wow.
And they would call me, pleading with me, asking me to, if
Your employees.
Renters. They would ask me
Right.
if they could work.
Okay.
If I didn't allow them to work, they were going to do what everybody else did. Everybody else did home visits, and we knew that was the most dangerous place to be. If they went into somebody's home, they were 75% more likely to contract the virus in somebody's home than they're in my establishment, where we're properly using PPE. And also, I refused to paper the windows, because behind papered windows, the very first question that your client asks you is, "Can I take my mask off?" And so that becomes a free-for-all environment. And also, I just did not want them to feel like criminals. I didn't want their clients to feel like criminals. And I knew the best way to keep people safe was to do it openly, right? And enforce the PPE and then some. We went above and beyond what was being asked of us. And up until, late 2020, 2021, there was never an outbreak that occurred in San Joaquin County, and maybe nationally. It was Health Officer Maggie Park even admitted in a County Board of Supervisors meeting that there were no outbreaks that had ever occurred in San Joaquin County, and yet we were locked. It was just picking and choosing of winners. And so I think what happens is that the government often doesn't know what to do, and so they do something even if it's wrong, so they give the appearance of being effective or doing something, which is much like what's happening to the homeless situation. They don't really know what to do, and so they sort of prey upon the ignorance of the voters, I feel, and they say, "Listen, we're just going to give away some houses. We're going to do this or that," and oftentimes what they do only makes the problem worse. From 2017 to 2019, the homeless population in this city tripled. And from 2019 to today, it tripled again. And so you have to ask yourself, would our problem be less severe if we just did nothing? Because I believe what we're doing is actually enhancing the problem.
Dino, you have a homeless plan that you've been working on. I know it's quite extensive, probably a bit longer than the time that we have here today to talk about it. But could you kind of give us a little bit about the bullet points of
Sure. So
what you're thinking?
Yeah. So as a private citizen, even before elected, I just really want to improve this city aesthetically and in all ways. Really, I want to address the homeless situation and the crime. And so I've been working with the state to try to secure funding for improving the Miracle Mile, because that's something that we can see, feel, touch, and enjoy. So, we sometimes put on social media, turn on the television, and we hear our elected officials claim that, crime is down 10% this month, or the murder rate is down this month and by 10% or 15% or whatever. But that's meaningless to the population at large, right? Because do you feel 10% more safe?
I'm not sure those numbers are really accurate right now. Anyway,
well, if it drops for 1 month, that they'll crow for about an achievement that month. But I want to do something and spend money on something that we can feel, see, touch, and enjoy to get our self-esteem back, right? And also, with homelessness, everybody is concerned about homelessness now. It's the number one topic for most people that I'm aware of, because homelessness is now, it's in your backyard. It's at your front door.
Yeah.
I see walking down my street sometimes what look like zombies. They're literally walking like this down the street, and it's frightening. And there's going to come a time when it's happening now, where more serious crimes are being committed, as well as E. coli in the water. I'm a former plumber, and I would have a poster in my house that said, "Plumbers keep the nation safe," because we know that the Black Plague, came about because of lack of sanitation. And there are villages in Africa in which illness and death occurs because parasites and illness come up through the bare feet.
Right.
And I can just imagine that we have some of those same issues in our soil today, and as well as burrowing into the freeway system, undermining the freeways, potentially maybe causing a levee break. And so what I did as a private citizen, I'm not elected yet, but I'm working with a lady from Philadelphia who's worked with the homeless for 40 years, 30 to 40 years. And we have this 32-page booklet, Project Dream and Elevate. And in this booklet, it discusses what the root causes of homelessness are, some of the things that in Stockton that exist to help the homeless population. And there are many, many programs in the city of Stockton to help the homeless. And then we also have a 12-page homeless initiative toolkit, things that we can implement today, strategies that we can implement to improve this situation. And there's so many details in here that would just bore the public, but at a later date, we want to reveal some of this.
Sure.
And I can just say that it's not, what's in here is not, we don't promote permanent solution housing, which is housing first.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Are you a housing first guy, or are you?
Housing first has been proven not to work all across the country. If it was effective, it would have ended homelessness 10 years ago. In 2011, both parties got together and said, hey, we've got 200,000 homeless people in this country. If we build 200,000 or tiny homes, it will eliminate the homeless problem, right? Makes sense. If there's 200,000 people that need houses and you build 200,000 houses, it should end it. Well, what we've seen is that it doesn't work. And today there's about 600,000 homeless people in this country. And, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000 in Stockton, I believe the number is. We can't offer housing without conditions, because, and we've seen also studies indicate that providing housing without conditions actually exacerbates mental illness and promotes more drug use, because it frees up money, right? They get money also, and they use that to purchase drugs. And then you also have to add in social isolation problems that occur when you put somebody that's used to being on the streets into housing. And there have been studies that suggest that the death rate increases when you give them tiny homes. They were safer on the streets.
Wow.
So it just has to be done more effectively, right? We have to provide a service first approach. We have to provide, in a compassionate way, mental health services. We have to absolutely provide addictive substance services and transitional housing and a pathway to permanent housing, right?
Makes a lot of sense. I think that, there's been a lot of talk about just the lack of drug and mental health intervention, that we just don't have it like we used to.
Yeah.
Here, and I think we're seeing the effects of that now, where it's.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I wish I could sit here and say that I knew all the answers.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think anybody does.
Complex
But
problem.
we know what doesn't work. I mean, Thomas Edison said if he didn't figure out how to invent a light bulb, he'd be working on it today, like before he passed. And so you just eliminate things that don't work, and you begin to figure out what does work. And the other thing is, there have been communities and counties and cities across this nation that have dealt with it successfully. Copy them. This has been figured out. We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Dino, is there any last thing that you'd like to tell your audience, your potential voters?
I'd like to say that I'm excited about Stan McFadden, the new police chief that has come aboard, been hired, and I look forward to working with him to improve the crime in our community. I know that he's from San Jose. I'm actually from San Jose initially. I lived there till I was a young teenager, and San Jose had many of the same issues then that we're experiencing now. And I think that bringing somebody from a functional family, right, from a functional environment, from a functional system, and bringing that here can help us in almost every way. And I would just like to say that I'm a big believer in cause and effect. So we are where we are today because of the things that we've done for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. And so if we want different results, if we want a different Stockton 6 years from now, we have to think differently today. We have to do things differently today, and hopefully vote differently today. So on June 7th, I'd be honored to earn your vote, and I will work really hard and at building building teams and getting things done for all of us. Thank you.
Wow. Well, thank you, Mr. Dino Ballin,
Thanks.
District 2
Yeah.
Supervisor candidate. Thank you very much, sir. And also, thank you, Lance McCann. Yes, you can
Thanks,
with
Lance.
Lance McCann. And everybody have a great day.
Thank you.